Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone Summer Camp. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. There we are. And we are entering into our second week. Can you guys believe that? Of camp, right? I hope you've been enjoying yourselves so far. I know I have. I've been enjoying teaching Harry Potter. Who doesn't love Harry Potter, right? So we're going to continue this week where we left off last week. And let's just take a couple of minutes at the beginning here to remind ourselves what we've been talking about and where we left off. So we've been focusing in on several themes and questions as we read through the book together. We've been talking about misinterpretations, how sometimes characters see something or hear something or experience something and get it wrong. They interpret it wrong. We're going to see that a lot this week, so keep that in the top of your brains. We've been talking a lot about appearance versus reality. Boy, is that a big theme in the wizarding world, isn't it? Appearance versus reality. Things are not always as they seem. We've been talking about JK Rowling's vivid description, how she uses language to make us see. Instead of just telling us, she shows us. We've been talking about wordplay that she uses, how clever she is with her words. We've also been thinking about a couple of questions. Why doesn't Dumbledore just come to the rescue for Harry when he's at his aunt and uncle's, perhaps? Or maybe some other times coming up here as Harry enters into some difficult challenges. Why doesn't Dumbledore just save him? Just step in and save the day. And we've already been talking about a little bit how Harry's experiences actually build his character. Okay, that sometimes he has to go through really, really hard things so that he can grow. We've been talking about that, and we'll see that more as we enter into this week's discussions. We've also been talking about why Harry becomes Harry. How does that happen? After all those years of abuse, how does he become the great kid that he is? And we also talked a little bit about some of those hard times and those challenges made him realize what's really important in life. Who he doesn't want to be like, the Dursleys, Dudley, right? Who wants to be like that? Harry doesn't want to be like that, so he's going to be the opposite. And he's going to be who he is, and that's Harry Potter. Okay, so keep these things rolling around in your mind. Like I said, these aren't the only themes or the only questions we could deal with in Harry Potter, but they are some big ones. And these are the ones I've kind of chosen to focus on in these sessions. So keep thinking about those as we go through the books. Now, today, we're going to pick up on the chapter called Halloween. And I want to look at that word first before anything else. Look at how it's spelled. Halloween. That's a different spelling than we're used to seeing. What's different? Somebody write in the question box. Remember, you can do that. Write in the question box and tell me what's different in that word than we usually see Halloween spelled. What do you notice? Yeah, it's got an apostrophe. Exactly. You know why it's there? This is the British spelling of Halloween. We know that these books come out of Great Britain, right? They were written originally by JK Rowling, who's a British author. So she's going to use British spellings. Those don't always get in our American editions. But this is a British spelling of Halloween because Halloween is really All Hallows Eve, All Hallows Evening. Okay, so there is a missing letter in here. That little apostrophe shows a V, where a V should be. It should be Hallow Even. But the V gets dropped out because that's kind of hard to say, so we end up with Halloween. That's just a little note about how language works sometimes and how we don't always realize that the words we see have a history. Okay, and this is one that has a history, Halloween. And what a Halloween it will be, won't it? But we don't start at Halloween. We start at a different place. So let's take a look at the beginning of the chapter, Halloween. Indeed, by next morning, Harry and Ron thought that meeting the three-headed dog had been an excellent adventure, and they were quite keen to have another one. My goodness, what a change, right? How quickly they'd forget their terror. The night before, they entered into a corridor and met a three-headed, drooling, snarling dog that the only reason he didn't attack them was because he was so startled at their appearance that he stopped and just stood still for a moment. If they hadn't gotten out of that corridor, that thing could have bit all of them at the same time. It had 3 heads. Oh, somebody says here, she thinks of the apostrophe as a box for letters. That's a good way to say it. It's like a little box where a letter had been and isn't anymore. Good. That's a neat image. Thank you. Okay, so how quickly Harry and Ron forget their terror of that dog. Now, the next morning, they think it is quite the excellent adventure, and they're ready to go do it again. Why do you think this happens? Why do Harry and Ron so quickly forget how terrified, how scared they were, and they're ready to have another adventure? Well, maybe it's because neither one of them have had too many adventures, have they? Ron, he's kind of grown up in a household with a lot of siblings. Day-to-day life is pretty much the same. Harry, we know how he grew up. Neither one of them have had a lot of adventures. So they're pretty keen to have another one once they have one. And they're pretty quick to forget how scary it was. But there's a couple people who haven't forgotten how scary that adventure was. One of them's Neville. He doesn't want to go anywhere near that dog ever again. He's done with adventures. Forget it. And then there's Hermione. And she hasn't forgotten her terror either. In fact, she is so mad at Harry and Ron for getting her into that situation to start with that she's not speaking to them. Enough of these two. She doesn't want anything to do with them anymore. Well, kind of, right? Kind of. Okay, so right in the midst of this desire to have an adventure, Harry's new broomstick arrives. His Nimbus 2000, carried by several owls. Another owl drops a note in front of him. Luckily, he opens that first, because it's a little note from Professor McGonagall saying, "Don't open this package at the table. It's your new broomstick. I don't want anybody else to know you have it, or everybody else will want one too." Fair enough, right? That's the way it usually works. Okay, so Harry and Ron, they eat their breakfast real quick. They dash out of the room. They're ready to go open that package up in their dormitory and see what it really is, what it looks like. But somebody else notices what Harry has. Draco Malfoy. And boy, is he jealous, isn't he? Oh, he knows that's a broomstick. And remember what Draco said the very first time we meet him? He says, well, I'm going to bully my father into buying me one of those, and I'll smuggle it in somehow. First year should be able to have their own broomsticks after all. Well, now a first year does have his own broomstick, and it's not Malfoy. And he is so jealous. And Harry doesn't have just any old broomstick. Oh no, he's got a Nimbus 2000. That's top of the line broomstick. That's pro grade broomstick. That's a racing broomstick. And according to Ron, Malfoy's got a Comet 260, and they look flashy, but they're not like the Nimbus. Okay, so Malfoy, he's pretty quick to tell on Harry, or he thinks he is, right? Oh, I got a question here. I wonder how fast the Nimbus can go. That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look that one up. I don't know how fast a Nimbus can go. Let me look that up, and I will tell you tomorrow. Because I bet it's out there on the web someplace. Okay, So Malfoy, he sees what Harry has. He sees in the Great Hall, and he is really quick to tell. Professor Flitwick is walking by, and Malfoy says, "He's got a broomstick, Professor." And Professor Flitwick says, "Oh, yes, yes, I heard about the special circumstances. And what model is it, Harry?" "A Nimbus 2000, sir," said Harry, fighting not to laugh at the look of horror on Malfoy's face. "And it's really thanks to Malfoy here that I've got it," he added. Ooh, what a dig, isn't it? It's really thanks to Malfoy here that I've got it. And Harry's right, isn't he? It is thanks to Malfoy that Harry got that broomstick. Okay, Malfoy took the Remembrall. Malfoy took off into the air when he wasn't supposed to. He wouldn't give it back to Harry. Harry took off and went flying after him. Harry decided he was really enjoying that broomstick and did that fantastic dive to catch the Remembrall. McGonagall saw him, made him Seeker, got him a broomstick. Yes, it is thanks to Malfoy. Yeah, somebody says Malfoy must be mad, capital M-A-D. Uh-huh. That was not what Malfoy intended. Malfoy wanted Harry expelled. He didn't intend to make Harry the Seeker on the Gryffindor Quidditch team and the owner of a brand new Nimbus 2000 broomstick. Not at all. Okay, so here we go again with appearance versus reality. Malfoy wanted Harry kicked out. Reality? Boy, just the opposite of what he expected. Such a twist of fate, right? But now remember, Harry's got this brand new broomstick, and he's going to be the Quidditch Seeker for Gryffindor. And he has no idea what Quidditch is, or how to play it, or even how it's played at all. Okay, so Harry needs a little remedial training here. He needs to have a session, and he does. He has a session with Oliver Wood, the Gryffindor Quidditch captain, and Harry's really eager to learn about this. If he's going to be the Seeker, he better understand what's going on. Now, Wood warns him right from the beginning that Quidditch is easy to understand, but not that easy to play. And we can see that. Those of us who have read all the books, which I'm pretty safe to say is probably everybody here, I'm not sure, but most of us have probably read all the books. We remember the fantastic Quidditch games. Now ask yourself, as we go through the how-tos of Quidditch, the Quidditch basics, what do you think? Where would you be good at? What position would you like to play? Okay, what would be your special talent if you were going to play Quidditch? So Wood goes ahead and he explains to Harry how to play. And Harry, he's taking this all in and he recites it back to Wood. He wants to make sure he understands, so he says it back to him. Have you ever done that? Sometimes that's a good way to learn new information. If somebody's throwing a lot back at you, especially if you're talking one-on-one, repeat it back. When we hear it, we use one set of brain muscles, so to speak, brain areas. When we say it, we use another. So you get two for the price of one if you say it back. And that's what Harry does. 3 chasers try and score with the quaffle. The keeper guards the goalposts. The beaters keep the bludgers away from their team. Harry reeled off. Yup, he's got it. He knows how that works. 3 chasers, they're the ones that take the big red quaffle and throw it around, try to get it through the goalposts. Remember those 3 big goalposts at the end of the field? Quidditch pitch, it's called. Keeper guards the goalpost. He's the one that has to block shots from the opposing team. And those bludgers, those little black bludgers, they fly around trying to knock anybody possible off their brooms. Okay, the beaters try to keep those away. Fred and George Weasley, they're the Gryffindor beaters, beaters. And according to Wood, they're kind of like a couple of human bludgers themselves. So Harry really doesn't need to worry about the bludgers too much. But Harry is worried. This sounds like a pretty dangerous game to Harry. Sounds like a pretty dangerous game sometimes to me too. How would you like to have something chasing you around, trying to knock you off your broomstick when you're way up in the air? Okay, so he asks, has anybody ever been killed playing Quidditch? And Wood said, nah, not at Hogwarts. We've had a couple of broken jaws. Nothing worse than that. Well, what do you think about that? Broken jaw sounds pretty bad to me, doesn't it? Okay, and we all know that Harry's going to have his share of Quidditch injuries over time. Okay, so Harry's got 3 parts of the game, but there's one part left to go. There's one player that's especially important in a Quidditch match, and that's Harry's position. Okay, one more ball as well. This, said Wood, is the golden snitch, and it's the most important ball of the lot. It's very hard to catch because it's so fast and difficult to see. It's the seeker's job to catch it. You've got to weave in and out of the chasers, beaters, bludgers, and quaffle to get it before the other team's seeker. Because whichever seeker catches the snitch wins his team an extra 150 points, so they nearly always win. The game of Quidditch only ends when the snitch is caught. So that is a pretty important position that Harry's going to be playing. Okay, we know what the snitch looks like, right? It's that little gold ball with a little fluttering silver wings. It's about the size of a walnut. Very, very hard to see. Okay, and the seeker, he's the one that has the most responsibility on the team. He's got to catch the snitch. And when he catches the snitch, he wins 150 points and the game ends. Okay, remember how many points you get for putting the quaffle through the goalposts? It's 10 points. Okay, so they have to score an awful lot of goals to even equal what catching the snitch does. Why do you think Quidditch gives so much importance to the seeker? Type in, you guys. What do you think? Why is the seeker such an important member of the Quidditch team? Why does he get all those points? Do you think that's fair? What do you think? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's a little bit unbalanced? Yeah, he can score 150 points in the game. That's why he's so important, right? I mean, wow, that's a lot of points. But do you think it's fair to put so much on one player? It's a good question. Something to keep in the back of our minds. That's giving a lot of importance to one player on the team and a lot of responsibility. That's why seekers get fouled so much, right? That's why everybody's out to get the seeker. They want him out of the game. Yeah, the snitch is so hard to catch. That's right. And that's true. The snitch is really, really hard to catch. And the person who has the hardest job usually does have the most responsibility. Okay, and he's got a hard, hard job. Now, Harry, he understands what he has to do. But he thinks that doing it is going to be the problem. He is pretty nervous about doing this, about being the seeker for the Quidditch team for Gryffindor. Now remember, he's got a lot of responsibility, and he's the youngest player on that team in 100 years. He is put out there. He stands out. He's given a big responsibility. He's given a big job. And he's an 11-year-old kid. We know that he's probably up to it because he's Harry, right? We're going to see the first Quidditch game in another chapter or two here. Okay, but right now, he's a pretty nervous kid, too. Would you be? I think I would be. Okay, now tell me, what position on the Quidditch team would you like to be? What would you like to play? If you can play anything, what do you think? Why would you choose it? Me, I think I might want to be a chaser. I think that would be pretty exciting to see if I could get the quaffle through the goalposts. What about you guys? What would you like to play? What position? Not sure? Nobody's answering yet. Oh, there's an answer. Okay, one of each. Beater, seeker. Okay. They each have their fun spots, don't they? They each have their benefits. They each have their pros and cons. I think they'd all be fun. But yeah. So think about that. Keep thinking about what position you'd like to play and why. Okay, remember we talked about putting ourselves in the story. That's part of the fun. Making sure that we enter into this book. Don't just let the words on the page slide by, but really dig in. Put yourself in the story. Make it yours. Okay, so Harry now knows the basics of Quidditch, and he starts training with the team. And they practice hard, don't they? They have Quidditch practice most nights of the week. Those of you who are in sports, do you practice that hard? Maybe, maybe not. I know some teams that do. Okay, but Harry now, he is really busy with his homework, with Quidditch practice, with everything else going on. And he barely stops to think until perhaps it was because he was now so busy, what with Quidditch practice 3 evenings a week on top of all his homework. But Harry could hardly believe it when he realized that he had already been at Hogwarts 2 months. The castle felt more like home than Privet Drive had ever done. So Harry's been there 2 months now. He's busy, he's active, he's got all kinds of interesting things that he's doing, and the castle now feels like home to him, more than Privet Drive ever had. So think about this. This makes us ask the question, what is home? What does it mean to be home? Is it just the place where you live, where you keep your stuff, or is there something more? To Harry, there's something more, isn't there? At Privet Drive, back with the Dursleys, he didn't have much. Even when he got that second bedroom, he didn't have much of anything. He didn't have love. He didn't have things to really keep him busy. You know, he had school, but he wasn't really involved in anything else because Dudley always left him out. He could never be in with the other students because they were afraid that Dudley would pick on them too. Okay, nobody wanted to cross Dudley and his gang. So he didn't have anything much to do. No activities of any sort, really. No real friends. And now look at the difference at Hogwarts, right? He's at a place where he's got all kinds of people around him, many of whom like him. He's really got friends here. He's got a lot going for him. He's got school, yes, but now he's got Quidditch. He's involved in things. He's active. Okay, and he's got love. He's really found a place where he belongs, where he's happy. Isn't that kind of what home is all about? The place where you belong, where you're happy, where you have a full, active life that you really love. Okay? That's more home than the place where you happen to sleep at night and keep your stuff. Okay, so even in just this little passage here, what, a few lines? JK Rowling makes us really think, doesn't she? About something that we usually take for granted. Home. What does it mean to be home? And now Harry's found it. But that doesn't mean that everything about home is perfect or easy. We know that at Hogwarts, it's not always easy for Harry. And it's definitely not perfect. And we know that because his classes, as much as he likes them, as much as he's learning, are hard. Okay, we've all had a class that's really hard for us. It's really challenges us. and that sometimes we get frustrated with, right? I know you guys have been in that situation. I have. Okay. Now Harry, he's entering into Charms class, and we learn about a particular spell that he has to learn in Charms class. And it's the spell to make things fly. And everybody's very, very excited to get started on it. Except it's not as easy as it looks. Okay, there's wand movement to it, swish and flick. And there's some magic words that the students need to say. Okay, the details are important when you do magic, or anything else, by the way. The details are important. And Professor Flitwick reminds his students that they have to get the words just right. And he does so with a fun little example. Professor Flitwick says, and saying the magic words properly is very important too. Never forget Wizard Barufio, who said S instead of F and found himself on the floor with a buffalo on his chest. Whoops! I bet that wasn't what he intended. Okay, so saying the magic words, very important. Details, very important. Harry and Ron, they don't always think so. They just want it to work, don't they? Yeah, somebody said Wingardium Leviosa. Exactly. That's the charm we're talking about. Okay, so Harry and Ron, they just want it to work. Remember, Harry is partnering with Seamus on this one. And Seamus is getting more and more frustrated. He cannot get that feather to fly off that desk for anything. And eventually he gives it a good solid poke with his wand. And do you remember what happens when Seamus does that? The feather what? Do you remember? That's one of those little details. Wait for a moment here if somebody's typing. Yeah, he sets it on fire. Exactly. He sets the feather on fire. And Harry has to put it out with his hat. No, he didn't turn into a buffalo. But Wizard Barufio did because he said S instead of F. Seamus just set his feather on fire. Thank goodness he didn't do anything worse. Now Hermione, though, she's one that pays attention to all the details. And Ron is working with her, much to his annoyance. Remember, Hermione hasn't been talking to Ron and Harry, at least no more than to make snippy comments like, well, you think that's a reward now for breaking the rules, don't you? When Harry gets the broomstick. Or a nice loud sniff when she knows something that Harry and Ron don't. Okay, so Ron and Hermione are partnering for this Wingardium Leviosa project. Ron's not happy. Hermione's trying to help. You're saying it wrong, Harry heard Hermione snap. It's Wingardium Leviosa. Make the gar nice and long. Hermione rolled up the sleeves of her gown, flicked her wand, and said, Wingardium Leviosa. Their feather rose off the desk and hovered about 4 feet above their heads. Now, we talked before a little bit about Hermione's attitude. Remember that? Once again here, Hermione's right. She has it right. She knows how to say the spell, and she knows how to do the spell. But think about her manner in telling Ron about it. She snaps. She tells him, you're saying it wrong. And then she shows him, it's Wingardium Leviosa, nice and long. Now, how do you think Ron's going to respond to that? Not very well, is he? Okay, so she's right. She's saying what Ron needs to do, but she's saying it in the wrong way. She's being bossy again. She's kind of sounding like a know-it-all. Okay, so that tells us something important. That tells us that the way we say things can be just as important as what we say. Think about that for a minute. Think about a situation that you might have been in where you might be teaching somebody something or trying to offer advice. And the person that you're giving the advice to or that you want to learn something gets mad at you. How did you say it? Okay, that's important. The how we say things is just as important as what we say. And Hermione, she doesn't do it right. She's too bossy, she's too demanding, she's too snappish. Even though she knows what she's doing, she's not putting it across in a way that Ron is going to take to. Okay, maybe she would have said, if she would have said something like, well, hey, Ron, let me help you. I think what I'm hearing with you is maybe you're saying it just a little bit funny, and that's why it's not working. Why don't you try Wingardium Leviosa? You think that might have worked better? We can see the difference, right? Instead of snapping at him, she's suggesting that she maybe can offer him a little bit of advice here. She's focusing on him instead of on herself. Okay, so remember that. The next time you have to teach somebody something or give them advice, think about how you say it. Even if you're right, the way you say something can make a big difference on how the person you're talking to hears you and responds. Okay, because Ron, he doesn't respond very well to the way Hermione tries to teach him. He gets mad. Ron tends to get mad really easily anyway, doesn't he? We see that in his character. He gets pretty grumpy. He gets pretty snappish back. And he does that this time. Ron was in a very bad temper by the end of that class. It's no wonder no one can stand her, he said to Harry as they pushed their way into the crowded corridor. She's a nightmare, honestly. Someone knocked into Harry as they hurried past him. It was Hermione. Harry caught a glimpse of her face and was startled to see that she was in tears. Okay, so Hermione, for all her snappishness and her bossiness, she's got feelings too. Now remember, when we first met Hermione on the train to Hogwarts, we talked about why she might do this, why she might be all bossy and know-it-all-ish. Is that a good word, know-it-all-ish? I think I just made that up. Okay, Hermione is pretty insecure. She's scared. Sometimes she feels that maybe she's not good enough. Remember, she's not wizard-born. She's muggle-born. Her parents are muggles. She didn't know she was a witch until she got her Hogwarts letter. She's trying to do the best she can, trying to be the best she can, and she's so insecure. So she comes off kind of brash, kind of snappish. And it's mostly because she's trying to protect herself. Okay, but Harry and Ron, they don't see this, right? They don't recognize that she's got feelings too. And that sometimes our words can hurt other people's feelings. And this time Hermione gets hurt. She overhears what Ron says. And Harry's really startled to see that she's crying. And this really bewilders Ron. Okay, he'd spoken out of frustration. He was annoyed, maybe perhaps a little bit more at himself for not being able to do the charm than even at Hermione for telling him how. Okay, think about that. Think about the times when you snap at somebody else. Who are you more upset with when something goes wrong, right? Maybe you've snapped at a younger brother and sister after you've had a bad day. Who are you more upset with? Your sibling or yourself? Okay, Ron, he's probably more upset with himself because he can't do something he wants to do. But he takes it out on Hermione. Okay, now he's uncomfortable. He tries to justify himself. He tries to say, well, she must have noticed she's got no friends. but it doesn't really work. We leave both Harry and Ron feeling pretty uncomfortable here. Not sure what to do. Okay, and later on, they hear another girl in Gryffindor saying that Hermione was in the girls' bathroom crying, and she just wants to be left alone. Well, now they're even more uncomfortable, right? They don't know what to do. They can't go in the girls' bathroom and go say, I'm sorry. Well, I suppose they could, but I don't think either boy would want to do that. Okay. So they're in a little bit of a pickle. Ron's hurt somebody's feelings. He doesn't know what to do about it. Hermione's crying in the girls' bathroom. And she's missing something that's really cool at Hogwarts. Remember what day this is? This is Halloween. Halloween at Hogwarts is pretty spectacular. Let's read about it. 1,000 live bats fluttered from the walls and ceiling, while 1,000 more swooped over the tables in low black clouds, making the candles in the pumpkins stutter. The feast appeared suddenly on the golden plates, as it had at the start of term banquet. Here's some of Rowling's wonderful imagery again. Remember we talked about imagery, that kind of language that helps us see things. The live bats fluttered. Can you picture that? See how much more vivid that is than saying, oh, they moved around up there? They fluttered from the walls and the ceiling, and 1,000 more swooped. Can you picture them swooping over the tables, making the candles in the pumpkins stutter? Now, how would you like Halloween decorations like that? I bet none of you have ever been to a Halloween party with at least 2,000 live bats. I know I haven't, and I know I would probably run the other direction if I ever saw such a thing. I don't like bats. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like bats. So the students at Hogwarts, they have to be pretty brave to go into the Great Hall with 2,000 live bats fluttering around. But I guess the magical world, you have to expect just about anything. Okay, so they're all enjoying the feast. They're having a great time. We know what Hogwarts feasts are like with all that food, until the party is interrupted by a gasping, stuttering, fainting Professor Quirrell, who announces that there is a troll in the dungeons. The party dissolves into panic, sheer panic. Apparently a troll is a lot more scary than 2,000 bats, at least to people at Hogwarts. Okay, so all the students are evacuated to their houses. And Harry and Ron and the other first years, they're going to follow Percy back up to the Gryffindor common room. But they remembered something. Hermione. She doesn't know about the troll. She's in the girls' bathroom, totally clueless. Harry and Ron, they don't want to do it. Last thing they want to go and do, but they know what's right. They have to go and warn Hermione. But the problem is, they run into the troll first. It was a horrible sight. 12 feet tall, its skin was a dull granite gray, its great lumpy body like a boulder, with its small bald head perched on top like a coconut. It had short legs, thick as tree trunks, with flat horny feet. The smell coming from it was incredible. It was holding a huge wooden club, which dragged along the floor because its arms were so long. Picture this thing. Can you see it? JK Rowling's description here is very vivid again. 12 feet tall. Its skin was dull granite gray. Okay, so dull, gray, icky. Lumpy body like a boulder, Little head like a coconut. What an image, huh? Short, thick legs like a tree trunk. Horrible smell. Okay, and Harry and Ron, they see this thing. They see this thing go into a room. And they see a key in the door lock of that room. And they run up and they lock him in. And they think, wow, we did something amazing. We caught the troll. He's in there. He can't get out. Let's go tell. Except it was the girls' bathroom, right where Hermione was. And the next thing they hear is this incredibly terrified shriek from the bathroom. Not a good thing. And again, they know what they have to do, whether they want to or not. And it's the last thing they want to do, right? But they know what they have to. They have to go in. They have to save Hermione because they just locked a 12-foot troll in the bathroom with her. Okay, that's something that we all have to ask ourselves sometimes. What would we do when we didn't want to do something, but we feel like we really have to, that we're responsible, that we're obligated? Would we have enough courage to do it? Think about that. We never quite know until we're in the situation. But think about it. Would you have done the same thing as Ron and Harry did? Would you have gone into that bathroom to save a girl you really didn't like all that much? But she's another girl. She's another human being, another student. And they do it. And they fail rather miserably at first, don't they? They try to distract the troll away from Hermione, and they're getting the worst end of the fight. Okay, the troll is getting madder and madder and more confused. And this is, remember, a 12-foot monster here, and Harry and Ron, they're not that big. Okay, until Harry does something. Something very brave and very stupid. Harry then did something that was both very brave and very stupid. He took a great running jump and managed to fasten his arms around the troll's neck from behind. The troll couldn't feel Harry hanging there, but even a troll will notice if you stick a long bit of wood up its nose. And Harry's wand had still been in his hand when he jumped. It had gone straight up one of the troll's nostrils. Both very brave and very stupid. How can something be both very brave and very stupid? Why did Harry do this? Was he desperate? I kind of think so. He didn't know what else to do. Okay? And Harry, he put himself in quite a bit of danger here. It didn't work. The troll has got this wand up its nose. It's just getting madder. Harry's afraid that that club's going to hit him pretty soon. Okay, so there's Harry riding on the back of a 12-foot mountain troll. And then Ron steps up and, surprisingly perhaps, saves the day. Ron pulled out his own wand. Not knowing what he was going to do, he heard himself cry the first spell that came into his head, Wingardium Leviosa. The club flew suddenly out of the troll's hand, rose high up into the air, turned slowly over, and dropped with a sickening crack onto its owner's head. The troll swayed on the spot and then fell flat on its face with a thud that made the whole room tremble. Ron finally learned the spell, and he used it at the exactly right moment. He becomes a hero, even though he really didn't know what he was doing. And that's true. Sometimes when we're in a situation like that, something else seems to take over for a while. We don't know what we're doing. We're so afraid, but we know something has to be done anyway, and we do it, and it works. Troll got knocked out, doesn't he? Okay, and the teachers, they come crashing into the bathroom. I mean, let's face it, this is making a lot of noise here. This troll is yelling, shrieking, banging things. Hermione's screaming. The boys are yelling. The teachers come crashing into the rooms. Quirrell, he just sinks onto a toilet. Snape gives Harry a piercing look, trying to figure out what's going on here. Professor McGonagall, she's both furious and relieved. Harry and Ron, they don't know what to say. Not a bit. How do you explain this? No clue, right? Have you ever been in that position where you don't even know what to say about a particular event or something that's happened? Yeah, well, Ron and Harry, they're there right now. And then a little voice pipes up. It was me, says Hermione. I went looking for the troll because I thought I could deal with it on my own. You know, because I've read all about them. Tell me something. Is this true? Nope. It is not true. Hermione lies. Okay. Harry and Ron had been searching for her because Ron hurt her feelings and she ended up crying in the girls' bathroom. She didn't know anything at all about the troll. She was just hiding out, kind of dwelling in her misery. Okay? Why didn't she tell the truth? What do you guys think? Why didn't Hermione tell the truth? Why did she lie here? It's a tough question. She could have told the truth. She could have said, they came looking for me because I was hiding out in here because I was feeling really bad. But she doesn't. She didn't want to get them in trouble, get them blamed. Yeah, I think that's part of it. Okay, she didn't want to get them in trouble. I think Hermione kind of had realized what she did wrong. You know, she said the right thing, but she said it in the wrong way. And I think she's realizing that. I think she's figuring out where she's gone off the beam. And I think she wants to show Ron and Harry that she knows that. Okay? She wants to admit that she knows that she's been kind of a know-it-all. That she knows she's been kind of bossy and irritating and snappish. Okay? And so she acts like a know-it-all again. Well, I went looking for the troll because I've read all about them. That sounds like Hermione, doesn't it? I've read all about them. I thought I could deal with it on my own. Now she's kind of showing herself to be a little foolish. She's realizing how foolish that really is to be a know-it-all and hold your own knowledge over somebody else's head. And so she does a little play acting. She takes the responsibility on herself. She gets Ron and Harry off the hook. And in the meantime, she gives them a little bit of an apology. She knows she's been a know-it-all. She knows she did things wrong. Now it's time to change. She admits their heroism, that they saved her. She takes her scolding. She takes her punishment without complaining. And off she goes. And we're going to see that Hermione's attitude changes from here on out. That this was kind of a revealing moment for her. That this helped her figure something out about herself. That maybe wasn't all that great. That maybe needed changing. Okay? And Ron and Harry, they're standing there looking like, well, trying to look like that this isn't brand new to them, because it sure is, right? Professor McGonagall, she admits, all right, you guys, fine, you're still lucky, though. Not many first years could take on that full-grown mountain troll on their own. You lucked out, boys. Don't try it again. You know, Professor McGonagall doesn't add the don't try it again part, but it's right there in her voice, isn't it? And something happens from here on out between Harry, Ron, and Hermione. The common room was packed and noisy. Everyone was eating the food that had been sent up. Hermione, however, stood alone by the door, waiting for them. There was a very embarrassed pause. Then, none of them looking at each other, they all said, "Thanks," and hurried off to get plates. But from that moment on, Hermione Granger became their friend. There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. So that little incident, not so little because it's a 12-foot troll, right? But that incident changed everything between Harry and Ron and Hermione. Hermione realized what she'd done wrong, and she made it up to Harry and Ron. Okay, your journal question. We're at the end of the chapter already. Can you believe it? Your journal question for this week, or for this session, excuse me, not for the whole week, for today. How does the troll episode lead Harry and Ron to become good friends with Hermione? Think about that. Why does it change things between Harry, Ron, and Hermione? We've talked about this a little bit, but think about it some more. Also think about what kind of conflicts you've had with the people around you, with your classmates, with your friends. Have you ever had anything like this, where you've gone through something kind of hard and you were friends afterwards? So that's what you can write about in your journals for today. Enter yourself into the story. See if you can figure out what's going on more deeply underneath the surface. Okay, so questions or comments from you guys. What struck you about this chapter? What questions do you have? What disturbed you? As you're typing in, I am going to show a couple of pictures that I think are really kind of neat. We can have a look. There we go. Keep typing your questions if you have them, or your comments, your concerns. But let's take a look at some images. We talk a lot about building up our own images in our brains, and that's the first thing we always have to do when we read a book. We want to have that mind movie, our own images going on as we read. But it's really fun to look at what other people have done too, and how other people have envisioned the book. So here we see Oliver Wood from the movie opening up the case of Quidditch balls. We see the quaffle and we see the two bludgers. Okay, it's kind of neat how they created that for the movie, isn't it? But was it what you had pictured in your mind when you heard about the quaffle and the bludgers? I have to admit, my mental picture of that was a little bit different. The bludgers were pretty close, but I didn't picture the quaffle as having those indentations in it. Okay, and it's not right or wrong how you picture it. Everybody's going to have a little bit different vision, a little bit different image of the story. And here is the golden snitch, also from the movie, which again wasn't quite like I had pictured it, but still pretty cool. Okay, I love the little wings coming out of the golden snitch. Remember, you can keep typing your questions in too. If you have questions or comments, just because I'm talking about the pictures, if I see a question or comment come up, I'll switch over to that. Okay, and here we go, again from the movie. Wingardium Leviosa. And Hermione is lifting that feather up into the air. Look at the look on her face. She is so satisfied, isn't she? And look at the look on Ron's face. He just looks grumpy. He wants to be able to do that, and he can't. And he's annoyed that he can't and she can. Remember we talked about that, how Ron was more frustrated with himself maybe than with Hermione? His expression shows that here. Okay, and notice everybody else's feather is flat on the desk. They're not having any success. Isn't the Charms classroom neat? How the movie creators envisioned it? Look at all the books stacked in the corner. That's my kind of classroom. I like that. Okay, let's take a look at Hogwarts on Halloween. I'm going to change over here. Come on, there it is. Now there's a Halloween party to remember. Look at all the bats. And this doesn't even show all of it. Remember, we have 2,000, at least 2,000 live bats here in this Halloween celebration at Hogwarts. The illustrator from Pottermore this time can only show part of them. But look at all the jack-o'-lanterns and the candles and the streamers and the ghosts. What a Halloween. I bet none of us have ever been to a Halloween party like that, have we? Pretty neat. Okay, and we'll look at one more. Wait for it to show there. Come on. There it is. The troll in the bathroom with Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Look at that troll. How would you like to meet him in a hallway? 12 feet tall with that little coconut-like head perched on this big boulder-like body. So kind of like an out of proportion snowman, right? And look at his legs and his feet. Do you think the movie creators had a great time envisioning him? I think so. He's looking at Ron and Harry like, what are these two little minuscule things doing down here? Well, he's going to be awfully surprised, isn't he? And I think the boys are pretty surprised at themselves, too, what they end up doing, really. Okay, we're almost done with our session for today. If there aren't any last-minute questions or comments from any of you, we'll go ahead and next time we're going to talk more about the next couple chapters. We're going to talk about the first game of Quidditch, which is going to be really cool. And we're going to talk about another magical object that we meet at Hogwarts this first year, the Mirror of Erised. So next time, Quidditch and the Mirror of Erised. So as always, thank you for participating in this online session of Signum Academy's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone Camp. And we will see you guys tomorrow. So goodbye for now, all you magical people.